because you cannot engage with books without being changed by them. And that's what I love about books. And that's what I really want to explore in this story is how books are linked to freedom and how the written word changes us whenever we read it.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day podcast. My name is Ruth Douthit, and I'm so happy you're here with me today. I know you have so many choices out there as to what podcast you're going to listen to. So I'm honored that you're choosing to spend some time with me today to listen to best-selling, award-winning authors like my guest today. And if you like what you hear, please consider following me, subscribing, liking, and maybe even leave a review of the episode. I'd love to know what you think of this episode today of a Writer's Day podcast. And head over to my website, artbyruth.com, to learn more about my upcoming projects. My book 2 in the Desert Shadows suspense series, Fatal Standoff, released, and I'm super excited for it to be out there in the world. So if you've read it, please consider leaving a review. Reviews help authors so much. You would not believe how it helps us authors. So leave a short review or a long review letting me know what you think of Fatal Standoff today at Amazon or on Goodreads as well, because it helps with our ranking and it gets our books out there to more readers. She is the best-selling Christie Award-winning author who has long claimed that words are the air she breathes. Oh, isn't that amazing? Roseanna M. White is with me today to talk about her new book, The Collector of Burned Books, a World War II historical novel with some romance and suspense in it. Ooh, it sounds amazing. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to Roseanna M. White talk about her new book. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so excited to have an author who's new to me. I know you've probably heard of her, but she's new to me, Roseanna M. White. Welcome, Roseanna.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, this is a treat for me because I am a huge World War II fan. I love World War II history. It's my favorite historical period. So when I saw that your book was about World War II, set during that time, I was super excited to talk with you. So welcome.
Thank you.
And why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about your new book.
Sure. So I'm one of those people who have been writing since I was in primary school and learned how to physically write, and always knew it was what I wanted to do. And so I have been very blessed to marry my high school sweetheart, actually, who's been super supportive and wanted to make sure I could chase my dream. So I've been publishing since the 2010 range-ish, and we'll be finishing my 50th book this year. So lots of books under my belt. I homeschooled my 2 kids. They both have graduated now, which is just crazy to me. My youngest just graduated, this summer. So yeah, still adjusting to that idea that my homeschool career is over. But yeah, so most of what I write is historical. I do have some things in other genres, but mostly historical. And it is just my first love. So I just have a blast and so lucky to get to do what I love.
Yeah, it is a treat. It's such a blessing. Were you homeschooled as well?
No. I went to public school and learned in high school that this was not what I wanted for my kids. So I wanted to be able to give them a catered education to what they were particularly interested in. So I decided at like age 16, I was going to homeschool my kids, and no regrets. It was great.
Wow, that's wonderful. So did you have a teacher who kind of inspired you or, pointed you in the right direction to become a writer?
Oh my goodness, I've had so many teachers who were very encouraging. Primary school on up, they were always, really impressed with my writing and encouraging me to chase my dreams. It was one of my teachers who submitted a poem I had written to a children's magazine in primary school, and it was accepted when I was in 5th grade. So my very first published work is due to a teacher who submitted it for me. And so many just, encouraged me throughout the years and told me to keep at it.
Oh, that is wonderful. Teachers are amazing in how they affect our lives. And that's amazing. You're fifth grade, you said?
Yeah, a poem.
A published author in fifth grade. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh, that's wonderful. And I hope that your kids realize what a treat it is to be homeschooled by mom. I know there are probably some ups and downs, right?
There are always ups and downs. They loved being homeschooled most of the time. There were days, but yeah, I think they loved being able to kind of pursue their own passions and what they were interested in. Now they are, as children, especially my son, less impressed with the fact that mom was a writer. There was one time I was like, "Do you want to come to an event with me and meet a real live author?" And they're like, "Is it you?" Like, yeah, I just need helpers. They were not impressed with that. But yeah.
That's adorable. I love that. Well, and you married your high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
So did I. I did too. We went to
Nice.
prom together and we got married. So that's neat.
Very fun. Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you have that support. It's so important for authors to have that support,
It
isn't it?
it really is. I mean, I know there are so many authors out there who do amazing work and do not have the support system, and I am in awe of them because I don't know how. Like without my husband and my family being very supportive and making time for me to do the things I need to do, I don't know how it ever would have gotten done. So, yeah, it's wonderful to have that support system and know that when I need time to write, they will help me make time to write.
Mm. And so what was and what is now your writing process? How did you do it as homeschool mom versus how you do it now?
Yeah, so when they were smaller, I had to get up early to kind of steal my writing time. I would get up at 5:30, and I'm a morning person, so that's not that bad. And the first 2 hours of the day were my writing time. So my children learned early on how to tell time so that they knew what time they were allowed to bother mama. And until then, they could get up, but they had to entertain themselves. So, before 7:30, kids were on their own from pretty early age, and I would get my writing done. And then, we'd switch to day preparation, exercising, eating, all that fun stuff. School usually started at 9, and I would do read alouds to them. We did a program called Sunlight that's all literature based. So I would read to them, and they would do some of their independent work in the morning. And then we would break for lunch, and I would try to squeeze in some more work. And then we would reconvene at like, 1:30 to do things like science together. And the things that they did on their own, like their own grade levels, math and writing, reading, that sort of thing, they would do throughout the day, and I would just check in on them. I mean, I work at the kitchen table, so, checking in means looking up. But yeah, so we just kind of co-worked, and they got a very firsthand view of what it looks like to chase your dreams and put in the work day after day. So yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. I'm always impressed by moms who do that. I had one little boy and I didn't start writing until he was about 9. So I had it pretty good. I just wrote while he was at school. So I am impressed how you were able to juggle both. And did you find that it's God's calling for you?
The writing or the homeschooling or both?
Probably writing and maybe both.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is pretty much the same. Yes, I've always felt that writing was the ministry God called me to, that was how I tell the world about his love. So I always wanted to pursue writing with that goal, that for me, it is my career at this point, but it was not about becoming my career and becoming something to make money. It was about really just pursuing that call that I felt God put on my life. And homeschool is another thing that I felt the call to do it. And I was always willing to say that this might not be the call forever. And certainly at this point, they're done. So that has changed. But yeah, definitely one of those things that, you have your reasons for doing it. And when you know what your reasons are, it helps you prioritize your life around it and decide what you're willing to pay, what cost is not too much, or what it's going to cost in order to chase these dreams.
Let's talk about the collector of burned books set in World War II. Tell us about this amazing story.
Oh, it was so much fun. Okay, so I read this nonfiction book several years ago called When Books Went to War. And it was all about the role of the publishing industry in World War II, which was, of course, fascinating. But the thing that stuck with me most in this book was this one paragraph that talked about the Library of Burned Books in Paris. And I was just so intrigued. So the Nazis had their book burnings in 1933, and that led to book bans throughout the country leading up to the war. And what I had no idea of before I read this book was that all of the authors whose books were burned and banned had to leave Germany. They were, not welcome there anymore. And so many of them went, as you do at the time, to Paris. They just relocated to the artistic community in Paris. And so a lot of these were Jewish writers. A lot of them were communists or capitalists or, people who did not fit into the Nazi mindset. They were people who criticized Hitler. And so they started this library with all the books that Germany had banned, and they called it the Library of Burned Books. So it included a lot of German authors, but they had all the works of American authors and British authors and, any authors really whose books were outlawed in Germany. So they had the first titles to be banned, but also their later works, and it became this place that focused on what they called anti-Hitlerism. So it became the leading force in Europe of where you would go for information if you were opposed to Hitler. But by the time the war started, the library had kind of fallen into disarray. Most of the board got swept up in the Spanish Civil War, so they weren't even there anymore. And it just kind of lost its steam. But still, when the Nazis took Paris in 1940, the very first thing the government did was hand over the keys to this library as a kind of token. We know that these people are your enemies. Here you go. And that just intrigued me, right? Especially because in this book, there was this line that said the Nazis kept it under lock and key throughout the throughout the war. And I was just like, why? Why would they keep it under lock and key? What would happen to the Nazis stationed here if they were, keeping it under lock and key? Because you cannot engage with books without being changed by them. And that's what I love about books. And that's what I really wanted to explore in this story is how books are linked to freedom and how the written word changes us whenever we read it. Whether we love it or hate it, it changes us. And so I just wanted to explore this through the lens of two different book lovers. One who is from Germany. He is part of the Nazi party, but not willingly. And then we have our French heroine, and she is a professor, which is, unusual at the time to be a female professor, who lives right next to the library, and some of her secrets are trapped in there when it's closed. So we've got both hero and heroine with secrets. We've got unlikely friends. Of course, there's romance because that's what I do. And just this fascinating concept of this library that holds everything the Nazi Party hates inside it and what happens to it during the war.
Oh, that is something I'd never heard before. I mean, we've all heard of the book burnings and seen the video, the films about them, but I had no idea that this library existed.
I know, right? It's just fascinating.
Wow. I mean, that is just so intriguing. I can see how it would inspire you to write a novel about it. That's incredible. So tell us about your two characters, Corinne
Yep.
and Christian. Tell us about them.
Correct. All right. So Corinne is a female professor. And as I mentioned, that's very rare at the time in France. And she just loves learning. She's very academic. She's also very bold and outspoken, which I'm one of these writers who I have my ideas going in. And then as I write, I learn who the characters actually are. So like chapter 1, I'm writing this girl and she is just not what I expected her to be. She is not quiet. She is not demure. She's like in your face bold, which was so much fun, but a bit dangerous in Nazi occupied Paris because she has this tendency to speak her mind. So she was a lot of fun to write. And she's friends with all the fellows from the Library of Burned Books and takes it very personally when, Nazis roll in and take over the library. And she's mad. She's mad. But Christian is the one who comes in and takes over this library. And he is not exactly what people think he is. So he was recruited, I will say, into the Nazi party forcibly. They had this tendency to say, okay, civil people, you're not military, but you are an expert in something we need for our military stuff. So we're going to give you a rank and we're going to send you in and you're going to do your job. And you don't really have much say in the matter. You do it or you go to a concentration camp. So Christian is sent to Paris to be the library protector, as they call it, which is to say, sort through all the collections in Paris, the libraries in Paris, and decide what can stay and what gets sent home to Germany, because, the really
Ah.
valuable things we want to send to Germany, and what should be burned and what should be banned, and make an example. And so he is also a professor and a librarian and loves books. And so this idea of, books are going to be verboten, forbidden, is just so offensive to him. But he also wants to do what he can to protect books, to protect readers, to protect people. And he views Nazi Germany as being an occupied country long before, France was an occupied country. So he wants to reclaim his country. He wants to reclaim the Germany he loves. And so, we have two book lovers and they're brought together by proximity. But yeah, they eventually, of course, learn each other's secrets. And we've got some espionage, we've got some family secrets, we've got just so much fun. It was just
Oh,
so much fun.
wow. That's incredible. I love that they come together. Did you find it a challenge to write Christian, this German who joins the Nazi Party in such a way that the reader will not, despise him? And even Corinne, that she doesn't despise him either. I mean, because when you hear member of the Nazi Party, you automatically
Yep,
want to, hate this guy.
you do. And that I love a challenge like that because, we are all humans underneath it. And absolutely the Nazi Party did some horrible things. We've got some bad guy Nazis in here. Don't get me wrong, we definitely do. But there's just also this idea that a lot of people were just forced into things. And they had to make choices and they had to make hard choices. And that's what we learn about Christian throughout it, that he had to make hard choices. And I had a blast. We learned really early on, like his first point of view chapter, that this is not a guy who is violent, who wishes ill on anybody. He, has so many friends who are Jewish because he's in the academic and book community. And a lot of the writers before they were forced out were Jewish or communist, or these things that we even have some ideas about when it comes to other political systems. But he had learned, not to judge people. But now he's in the position of, I have to make it look like I'm judging people. So it was so much fun to write him and see the dichotomy and how he's playing the game and trying to toe the line and trying not to draw attention while he's doing what he believes is right. And it's a challenge, but it
Mm.
made for some really great built-in tension. So that was so much fun. And, Corinne does despise him at first, but he comes to talk about books because he's looking for books that had been checked out of this library, which her mother had some checked out. So he keeps knocking on her door going, have you found these books yet? And then asks her about the books she's reading. And you know what a book lover can't do is resist talking about books. So they end up bonding over books, much to her dismay. But eventually, she realizes that he's not quite what he seems. So it was,
Mm.
yeah.
I love that. I love it when they have layers, when characters have layers and the
Yes,
reader just
yes.
keeps uncovering more. And it sounds like a movie. I mean, the way you're describing it, I'm thinking this would be a great movie.
It would, right? Somebody needs to just fund that. It would be great.
Yeah. Snap your fingers and make it happen.
I know.
Now, as Christian authors, we love our readers to
We
see the
do.
themes. So, what are the takeaways you want readers to have when they finish reading The Collector of Burned Books?
Not surprisingly, with this one, they are all kind of linked to literature. So I want people to really pause and think about the books that have changed their lives, of course, and how freedom of the press, how freedom of publication, how freedom to read what we want to read is linked to the very heart of freedom. So when one is shut down, it's not far before all freedoms start to shut down. And I really want us all to ponder that because it's something that never goes away, right? We are always very up in arms if someone wants to shut down our books, but not so not so eager to speak up if we're shutting down the books that we don't like. And we see that today. We've seen that forever. It's always been and it always will be, but it's dangerous. And so that's what I really want people to think about is how how are we extending that freedom that we want for our books to the books we don't agree with? Or are we taking the very line that the Nazi Party took? Or it actually started with students in the 1930s saying, we don't want these books in our library. We don't want them. They're disgusting, right? Like we don't
Mm.
like these ideas. And that's how it started, which is innocent enough, right? Like we all tend to think that way, but look at where it led. And so we need to stop and ponder before we ever say remove these. We need to stop and say, but where will that lead? And more, we need to remember that today's banned books are often tomorrow's classics. Look at the list of books that have been banned. And it includes, so many that we love today that people have always loved, that from Mark Twain to H.G. Wells to, To Kill a Mockingbird and The Great Gatsby. All of these were banned, but they
Mm.
are classics today. So I really want to leave everyone with a challenge to read outside your comfort zone. It's something that I've had to do in life in my education, but I got out of the habit of, and I'm trying to kind of restart that myself and want to invite other people along. Christian issues a challenge at the end of the book to read more, to read widely, to read things you love, yes, but also things you hate. Read things you disagree with, read different genres. And when you come across ideas that you don't understand or you don't like or that challenge you, things that we don't feel like we're even strong enough to grapple with sometimes, read more until you're stronger. Read more until you've grown and you can handle these ideas. And don't just sit back and say, no, that's not for me. Really examine why you are reacting the way you are to a book and whether that's the way God wants you to react to a book. So I leave everyone with the challenge to read dangerously. That's what I'm signing these books with, and it's kind of my campaign for this book is pick up the book, pick up the book you normally wouldn't, and see how it changes you.
Oh, that's a great message. I remember long ago volunteering as a parent at my son's school in the library, setting up for the Scholastic Book Fair, and overhearing hearing parents say how the Harry Potter book should be banned and some other books should be banned. And I'd never read them, so I just listened and nodded my head. And as you're saying, years later, I thought, well, maybe I should actually read the books before I start banning them. And so you're right. We need to challenge ourselves. There are so many books out there that we need to read. And I had no idea that it started with the students. It
Yeah,
reminded me of the Great Leap Forward in communist China that also started with a lot of students protesting. So we need to be
yeah,
careful,
we
right?
do.
To just shut doors and insist that other people believe how we believe. But
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And when
I,
we find books that we don't agree with,
mhm,
the answer is to talk about why they're wrong if you think they're wrong, right? To open the dialogue and to examine it. Because when you ban something, what you do is make it a forbidden fruit, and that can be very alluring. So,
right,
you tell
exactly.
if people tell me, oh, let's ban this book, I'm going to go read it because I want to know what's going on with it, right? So often it's counterproductive and it does the exact opposite. So what I tell people is, look, if you don't want these books around at all, and for kids is something different. We do need to
Mhm,
make sure books are appropriate for
yeah.
children.
Mhm,
But when it comes to books, especially for adults, if you don't like it, write something better, right? If you don't like the
yeah.
message these books are putting out, find the messages that you do want and the books that are promoting those and promote them. But it doesn't
Mm,
require shutting something down. It requires
yeah.
giving something better.
I agree. I think you can write an alternative. I love dragons and I write dragon books. I've
Awesome.
picked up a few dragon books that are popular right now, and they're just not for me. They're
Mhm.
a little bit dark or they're sexualized. And so I myself didn't continue reading it, but I'm not going to insist that they be banned, right?
Right. Yeah,
So instead, I write an alternative, clean youth, dragon books and
exactly.
and put those out there and let parents know this is an alternative if you're looking for a clean dragon fantasy, these are my books. So I think that's the way to go.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're right. We don't want to insist a school have books that are inappropriate for kids. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
talking about the banning of books that adults can decide on their own. Because you're
exactly.
right. I mean, Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer, those were banned for many years, To Kill a Mockingbird for many, even in California as recent, I think it was like 2017,
Yeah,
wanted to ban it.
it's
So
pretty recently.
yeah, we need to make sure we're not doing these things.
Yep.
Well, so what's coming down the road? What's
Well,
next?
a lot always. So there will be a Christmas novella coming from Tyndale House called The Christmas Book Flood that'll release this fall. And it is about the origins of Iceland's Yellow Book Flood, which is the Christmas book flood, which is a tradition of giving books for Christmas and then staying up to read them, basically, which, I
Ooh.
love this tradition. It's great. We've adopted it in my family.
Oh,
But it
nice.
started in 1944 because paper was one of the only things not rationed in Iceland. And Iceland was actually occupied not by the Nazis, but by the Allies. So first by Britain and then by America at this point. So it's a very different occupation story. It actually brought them huge amounts of wealth. So while other occupied countries occupied by the Nazis were suffering so horribly, Iceland was for the first time in their history experiencing a lot of economic uptick, and they were finally to the point where they had money to spend on things which they never had before. It went from being like the poorest country in Europe to the richest per capita because of the occupation. So they call it the Blessed War. And it was just a fascinating thing to explore this other point of view. So it's again bookish. It's a nice bookish story. We've got a publishing house because they were the ones that started this tradition. It was actually the publishers sending out a catalog. So it looks at these origins and of course a fun little love story. And it's a novella.
Oh,
It's a Christmas novella. It's short and sweet and just a lot of fun. And then next summer will be coming my next full-length World War II story, all about the historic female head of intelligence in France. I am writing a fictionalized version. I changed her name and everything, but it's based on a true story and just so cool because who knew that a woman was in charge of all the intelligence in France? Totally was.
wow. That is incredible. And again, I'm such a huge fan of World War II history. I'm going to have to pick up that one too. Well, the Collector of Burned Books releases July 15th through Tyndale, so they can go pre-order right now, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm looking at the Amazon page right now and I'm going to go pre-order it. So make sure you pre-order it right now so that way when it releases, it automatically bling appears on your
just
Kindle.
shows
and
up.
that's the
Yep.
best. Yeah, that's
Or
the
in your
best.
mailbox, whatever you want.
There you go. Yeah, you can get the hardcover as well. It's available. So,
Yeah.
well, Roseanna, it's been so nice to meet you and chat with you about all things writing. And I hope to do this again real soon.
Absolutely.
Wow, what an incredible story by Roseanna M. White. I am really looking forward to reading this one because, as you know, I'm a huge World War II fan and I'd never heard this story before. So this is going to be great. The Collector of Burned Books releases July 15th, so head over and pre-order your copy right now. And to learn more about Roseanna M. White, head to roseannamwhite.com where you can sign up for her newsletter and see all of her amazing books there on her beautiful website. I thank you for joining me today. I hope that you've been inspired because Roseanna, made it a priority to write every single day, even though she was homeschooling her kids. And that always inspires me. So be inspired to keep going, no matter how many obstacles are in your way. If it's a priority, if it's a calling by the Lord, you have to keep writing. So make time for it every day. Do something, whether it's publicity or marketing your books or writing 1,500 words. Do something with writing, every single day. That's what I do. And I thank you so much for joining me today to listen to Roseanna. I hope that you've been encouraged. And until next time, God bless.